Now, Airbnb listings really rely on reviews. It's one of the most important things that potential guests will look at. They'll look at the photos and they'll quickly look at the reviews. Or, I mean, some might go into details of looking at the reviews. Some might just flick through a couple. Now, as you host more and more, it is likely or highly likely that at some stage you will receive a potentially negative review. In this video, I go through some of the things that you could possibly look at doing if you do receive one of these negative reviews. Now, when it comes to reviews, one of the first things to note is that as a host, you have 14 days to respond to a review or to review a guest. Now, there's a couple of reasons that this is important. Now, the first reason is if you have had a guest in there that you think may give you a less than positive review, you can actually hold off on reviewing them for 14 days. And then hopefully in the meantime, you've had some good guests coming in that you review basically immediately so that their reviews show up ahead of the guests that may leave you a bad review. Now, don't think that by not reviewing a guest that their review won't show up. It will show up after 14 days whether you review it or not. It just gives you 14 days to actually review that guest. So my advice to you in this occasion, if for some reason you do think a guest will give you a bad review, just hold off on reviewing them for that 14 days. Try and get as many bookings in the meantime at and really go really full on with the hospitality, and hopefully you'll get some good reviews from those guys, and they will appear higher up on the list because all the reviews are usually in date order. Now, every now and then you may get a negative review from a guest that you weren't expecting. The guests check in, you haven't heard a word from them, they're assuming like all your other guests that they're having a great time or they're having a great experience, only to find out later when the review appears that there's some negatives in there. Now, here's a couple of steps that I go through just to make sure I handle this process in the right way. Now, the first thing to do is to not panic. So do not panic. When you first read a review, as you've got that emotional attachment to your property, you've put in all the hard work, and there is a ton of hard work that goes on behind the scenes. Sometimes getting a negative review can really sting, particularly when they haven't noted all the great work that you've done and they've just focused on one negative. So my advice here is just in the first instance, don't panic. Don't feel the need to quickly jump on and respond straight away to their comment. Go into a tirade, accuse the guest of something. Just avoid that type of emotional reaction at all costs. Now, another good thing to do is just take time out from the bad review. Just step away from it. Maybe get a third party to review it. There's lots of forums on Facebook and that type of thing. So you can see people who aren't as emotionally attached and see their thoughts on it. A lot of the times what jumps out at you and really stabs you about a negative review, either on second reviewing of their review or on a second reading, or once someone not emotionally involved, a third party has looked at it and said, oh look, that review's actually not as bad as it first comes across. So I suggest that that's another way to deal with it as you go through this process. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to come back and reread the review at some point. But what you want to do is you want to be rereading the review with a focus on looking at the positives in the review. If you've been hosting for a long time, you've probably got a lot of positive reviews. This is probably just one negative review that's come out of a very fussy or particular type of guest. They're more than likely, if they are being genuine about it, they are probably trying to provide some positive feedback for other people who they believe are coming to stay at the property. So they are likely to have left something positive. Really focus on finding the positive in that review. And there's a good reason why I'd like to do that. and that'll come up next. Now, if there's nothing positive in the review, and it's and the say for instance the guest has basically for whatever reason had a huge issue with either you as a host, and they've made up some sort of information, or it's basically a false review, or they said they're, for instance, the place didn't have a washing machine when it does have a washing machine. And so if they made false claims, you can actually go back to Airbnb with evidence that these are either false claims, or perhaps the guest has tried to intimidate you, or they've tried to extort money from you by saying, if you give us a discount, we'll leave a good review. If not, and then they've left you a bad review, you can go to Airbnb and possibly have that review removed. It's quite difficult to get a review removed by Airbnb, but if you have such grounds as that, that's what I would be doing. I would be going straight back to Airbnb with that evidence to get that review struck off. Now, you want to craft a thoughtful response now to their review. Now, this is where I mentioned before about really finding some sort of positive in the review. What I like to do is I'll go through their review, I'll find out something positive. That might be, the location was great, or we liked the bed was comfortable. I'll put that in the review. I'll start off as my response to the review. Glad you found the bed comfortable, it's such and such. Glad the location's great, that you found it so good. Yeah, I find it really good. So it's a chance to re-advertise some of the positive features of your property. So when people are coming and looking and they see a bit of a bad review, they're sort of flicking and scanning through, and then you're reiterating a positive. Now, the next thing you want to do is kind of address the negative, but by not highlighting it. It's not something like, I'm glad you brought that to my attention, that there's a problem with the check-in process. I'm always looking to improve, and I have improved the process going forward. I've done this. I've changed cleaners. I've got new linen, or whatever the issue may be, or I've enhanced the Wi-Fi, or whatever the issue. Show how you've actually enhanced the property, so that when new guests are looking, they can see, okay, someone's brought up some negative feedback, this host has addressed it, and if that was the only negative out of all the positives, then and that's been addressed, this is probably a good place to stay. Now, it should be the case that this review is just one bad review amongst many good reviews. If it's not, you've probably got deeper issues. So I always like to look at a negative review as possibly a chance to rectify something that I'm not seeing. I'm not staying at these properties day in, day out. A lot of these properties probably haven't stayed in for over 12 months. So it's a chance for a guest to highlight that and actually rectify it. If you're continually getting bad reviews, then you've probably got deeper issues that need to be looked at. You might need to take your property off the market and actually deal with the reviews, or get someone in to do a bit of an Airbnb audit, or revamp the whole place. But this is only really going to work if you're on a path of continuous improvement. And if you continually getting bad reviews, you're basically going to just go out of business. So use it as a chance to adapt, evolve, and improve. Now, the last step is just to move on from the review. The review's been, you've taken action, just forget about it, leave it alone. Focus on the future bookings, the future guests, and making sure their experience is just a great experience. And remember, if you are getting a lot of continuous guests coming through and a lot of good reviews, this bad review will just be washed away in the sea of positive reviews. I hope this helps in the case that you do get a slightly negative review, or hopefully you don't get any negative reviews at all, and it's 5-star all the way. So good luck, and thanks again. Cheers. Bye.